we sort of will go again into understanding that I'm not going to be a gatekeeper. I'm not going to be a person that's going to stop them from accessing care. I'm not there to determine if they're trans enough. I'm going to write them this letter.
Breaking news, Matt Walsh has done a little undercover investigating to expose the nation's largest trans healthcare providers are rubber stamping letters approving gruesome, life-altering, permanent surgeries. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. Matt Walsh is certainly that. He has done more for protecting kids from permanent, life-altering genital mutilations than I think anybody else. And just recently, less than 24 hours ago as of this recording, Matt Walsh published on Twitter a bit of a sting operation where he's caught healthcare providers just willy-nilly diagnosing people with gender dysphoria, which rubber stamps them to get the surgeries, pay a lot of money, get covered by insurance, and ultimately the trans healthcare providers get to make a lot of money with very minimal screening. So we're gonna take to Matt Walsh's Twitter thread and go through it because the whole thing is very revealing, it's very concerning. But what's beautiful about this is this would be way more concerning if nobody knew about it. But because Matt Walsh is a freedom fighter, he's someone who wants to protect children, he's exposed it. Now this is in the light of the day. It's in the light of awareness. And now there is the possibility of accountability to be demanded for. And Matt Walsh's post up just yesterday, it already has 21.6 million views on it, which is incredible. Matt Walsh starts off, breaking. The largest trans healthcare providers in the US are rubber stamping letters approving gruesome life-altering surgeries. It's such a racket that my producer was approved for testicle removal in 22 minutes. And then let's just walk through the rest of Matt Walsh's thread here. Post number 2, first some background. Ari Groner is a licensed clinical social worker, that's the lady you saw in the opening video, who educates doctors on trans healthcare. At a recent training session for the Juniper Center, Groner explained that she writes whatever letters her patients want because she's not a gatekeeper. That is a problem when we're dealing with medical issues. It's literally letting the inmates run the asylum. Whatever the patient wants, we will give that to them. Whereas a medical worker, excuse me, should be using medical expertise to diagnose patients correctly, not having patients tell them what the diagnosis is or tell them what to write. So this is a major issue. Post number 3. Groner was referring to the WPATH standards, which major hospitals follow. They require that trans patients obtain a letter before undergoing surgeries. But Groner tells her audience to treat the letters as a persuasive essay and to greenlight even suicidal patients. That is very concerning as well. Now, a suicidal patient, by definition, isn't mentally stable. They're probably the last person that you would want dictating medical procedures, mutilation procedures done to them. And of course, the ideological argument is they're suicidal because they're trans and they're not in the right body. Studies out of Sweden have shown there is not a reduction in suicide rate in the trans community after they get life-altering surgeries. These surgeries do not save lives. But a critical thinker might ask, do they think they're trans because they're suicidal, rather than just the ideological perspective that says they're suicidal because they're trans? Well, someone who's suicidal is 100% trying to escape themselves. That's what suicide is. It is the ultimate unfortunate escape attempt. So someone trying to escape themselves can very much want to alter themselves, which would suggest suicidal people should be the most scrutinized, the most help. They need the mental health care treatment, not physical treatment based on their mental instability. Post number 4. Groner explains that insurance companies won't pay for these surgeries, which of course hurts the bottom line of the hospitals and the doctors who are willingly violating the their Hippocratic oath unless patient is diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which that's confusing to me because I thought the ideological movement was saying, well, gender dysphoria, that's not real. I'm just trans. That's what I am. Where gender dysphoria would actually be considered a mental disorder, but they're saying you actually have to be diagnosed with a mental disorder before the person with a mental disorder tells you to mutilate their body and you take their commands if you're a satanic surgeon. So she says, healthcare workers should provide the diagnosis. We're using that diagnosis, she says, to ensure clients get that necessary treatment. Post number 5, which, by the way, please check out Matt Walsh's post. You can watch these videos, but for the sake of brevity, I'm just reading the summary that he's providing from the videos rather than belaboring it with you. Post number 5, whatever insurance companies might think of that, it's the industry standard. The popular trans telehealth service, Folks Health, for example, instructs patients that even if they don't fit the definition of gender dysphoria, the diagnosis is needed so that the insurers pay out. I think that's both insurance fraud and medical malpractice. Is that right? That's right. Okay. Post number 6, Folks, which provides letters authorizing surgeries for a nominal fee. Just pay for the diagnosis you want. It's fine. Goes on to admit that it's quite possible patients will receive a letter indicating a gender dysphoria diagnosis even if they really do not have dysphoria. And as you'll see in a second, Matt Walsh's producer, who does not have gender dysphoria, got himself diagnosed with it and was approved after 22 minutes to have his testicles cut off. Post number 7. We reached out to Folks about this. A staff member confirmed that a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, with the word diagnosis in scare quotes, is a requirement for insurance purposes, even if it doesn't apply. Again, we're working with complete criminal activity here. Insurance fraud, medical malpractice, dare we say genital mutilation. I mean, where does it stop? Doctors violating their Hippocratic oath. Once you get a mutilation labeled as a procedure, then doctors who have violated their Hippocratic oath and taken the satanic oath will operate. Post number 8. The largest trans healthcare provider in the U.S., Plume Clinic, runs a similar scam. They sell letters for $150 authorizing surgeries. That's how our producer, Greg, received approval for testicle remover after a 22-minute video call. This is interesting. Post number 9. In his intake form with Plume, Greg provided a fake legal name. He said he had dysphoria in the past, but he stated he had never experienced it for 6 months or more. Under the current version of the DSM-5, that means he doesn't have gender dysphoria. And here you can see from Greg, the producer's form, he indicates, no, I have not had dysphoria for longer than 6 months. Post 10. Plume quickly scheduled Greg for a video interview anyway. He assumed the identity of Chelsea Bussey, fun name. He didn't even attempt to pass. He badly pronounced the name of the surgery he wanted. He made it clear he didn't know what the effect the surgery would have. Post number 11. Nevertheless, Plume's nurse practitioner said she wanted to write the most solid letter possible to justify the surgery. Do you see a problem with that? Greg tells her he once wrote an essay in school about being a woman, which everyone thought was ridiculous. Post number 12. Greg also tells Plume's nurse practitioner that his father has been prescribing him hormones for years. The nurse doesn't question this in any way. Instead, she says that arrangement is perfect. Post number 13. 3 days later, Plume sent this letter to Chelsea Bussey, who does not exist, saying he was experiencing significant ongoing gender dysphoria. Even after he indicated, I haven't had it for even 6 months. The letter strongly recommended Chelsea for testicle removal. Post number 13. The letter keeps capitalizing orchiectomy without an before it, as if it's just been copy-pasted into a template. Greg followed up to learn why he had been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Plume admitted they just use letter templates provided by WPath. Post number 15. Later, Plume's nurse practitioner confirmed that in order for the surgery to be paid for, the dysphoria diagnosis would need to remain. At the same time, the nurse appeared confused as to why Chelsea Bussey had requested testicle removal in the first place. Then final few posts. 16. This scam is the cutting edge of trans healthcare. After launching just a couple of years ago, Plume now operates in 41 states. Folks is in 47 states. How is it possible they've expanded so quickly? Post number 17. The answer is that there's big money behind this. Plume and Folks raised more than $45 million last year. Kraft Ventures just led Plume's $14 million fundraising round. Is David Sachs aware this is going on? And then some others he's tagging, get their attention. That's clever, I like that. Post number 18. Insurance companies like Aetna, United Healthcare Group, and Cigna work with Plume. Do they know they're paying for surgeries based on obviously false information? That's very interesting. It'd be good for the insurance companies to find out, and I'm sure they are now aware of what's going on. Will they do anything? That's the question. But of course, insurance companies, they don't care about you if you're gay, straight, trans, mutilatedly intact. They don't care. But they don't want to be paying for fraudulent procedures, any kind of procedures based on fraudulent diagnosis. So it'll be interesting to see the insurance companies crack the whip, if they change their policies, or if they hold these diagnosing practitioners their feet to the fire, because that is insurance fraud. It'd be interesting to see if there's any criminal proceedings brought. Post number 19. Some states have restricted this kind of medicine. Florida, for example, recently passed a law banning most trans telehealth services. Trans activists and the Associated Press have complained that this law is onerous. It is not onerous. It's actually a protective law. It's great. Post number 20, finally. They're furious because they know the gender transition industry is corrupt and fraudulent from the ground up. Protecting kids is just one piece of the puzzle. The fight begins there, but it doesn't end there. The whole industry needs to be shut down. I would agree. It appears as though Elon Musk agrees. He even commented on the tweet thread. Incredibly disturbing thread. That's the breaking Matt Walsh investigation exposing the genital mutilation industry. I'm so grateful Matt Walsh is leading the charge in this. Someone has to do it. Matt Walsh, I believe he has 6 kids, so he's highly motivated. He's a father. He wants to protect kids, not just his own kids because he's a lion. He wants to protect all kids out there. And I would dare say he and people like him, they also want to protect other human beings, people who are mentally ill. At times they need to be protected from themselves. But most importantly, they need actual mental health care. Genital mutilation actually isn't mental health care, believe it or not. So I appreciate you watching this video. Let me know what you think of this latest Matt Walsh expose in the comments. And before you go, I want to tell you about my new favorite thing in the world, a satellite phone. What's up, friends? I want to tell you about my new satellite phone, which I absolutely love, from sat123.com. We all know the world has become an unstable place with food supply issues, energy grid issues, and other threats that some of us are concerned about. So to be prepared and protect your family along with food and shelter, communication is one of the bases that absolutely needs to be covered. But most people are clueless where to start, leaving them vulnerable should cell networks go down, or there's EMP attacks, or privacy violations, shall we say. But sat123.com makes it easy, and they've got your back. This satellite phone will work anywhere on Earth, aside from the North Pole and the South Pole, whereas normal cell networks only cover 7% of the Earth's surface, and you're dependent on the grid. There's no tracking, no one can listen to your calls. The satellite phone is the most private, dependable method of communication. This little beauty is the Inmar iSat phone, and it's under $90 a month with a 12-month agreement, and the phone comes free with the plan. That's a $985 savings. If cell towers go down due to weather, earthquakes, EMP attacks, or for any other reason, your satellite phone will work. I think Klaus Schwab hit the red button. If you want to be prepared instead of being left high and dry, scared and lonely, then go to sat123.com and use promo code JP2023 to get the $50 activation fee waived.